Welcome to this next episode of Inspired Good Fat Life. And as always, we have some really inspired things to talk about, right?
Indeed.
And joining me is my guest, Mary Pearsall. And we'll be talking about the circadian rhythm. But before we do that, I want to just do my shameless plug for Good Fat Life magazine, right? And all things Good Fat Life. And we are just working on the next issue, and it's really exciting. And we've got some very cool workshops coming up in August and in October, and an event at the end of September. So just check us out. We're adding some more blog posts and lots of cool, fun things. So that said, welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Sherri.
So happy to have you here. Yeah, and so one of the things that we are studying, researching, curating, is our cycles, right? Cycle of life, birth to death, autumn, winter, spring, fall, 24-hour moon rhythm, and then the 24-hour circadian rhythm during the day, which is what
Day and night.
Day and night. Right,
Yes.
right. Okay, yeah. So, and that is what brings Mary here today, is to talk about what is the circadian rhythm. So
Well, it's a word I've heard for a long time, and I'm guessing you have too, so I was going to ask you first, what do you know about it?
Well, I know a lot more than I know a lot more in the past year than I did like before. 24 hours, right? 24-hour days reset, but I had no idea that like every second something's happening in our body in that rhythm.
Perfect order.
Yeah, in perfect divine order that is fascinating, right?
Absolutely.
So go ahead,
And
enlighten
what
us. Yeah.
started us, me being here today, was me telling you that I was just overwhelmed with all the information I was discovering about it, because I hadn't really dove into it before. And it's fascinating how every single cell in our body, not just our major clock, which we all have in the brain, our master clock, but every single cell in the body builds proteins and takes them down every 24 hours. And there's a constant, intricate, fascinating give and response system going on all through the day. And the thing that fascinates me most about the whole thing is that as humans, we've lived here for thousands, billions of years, and it's just been less than 100 years that we've had the problem of lights around the clock. Because our circadian rhythm has the internal clock, but it also responds to cues on the outside, like sun.
Right, the whole night
thing.
to day, dusk, dawn of that whole, yeah.
And when we eat also. But up until less than 100 years ago, it wasn't ever an issue, because you had to go to sleep when the sun went down, and you had to get up, or you got up when the sun rose, because you didn't have the option of staying up all night, because there were no lights, and you just had candles or lanterns that didn't throw off your brain system because it wasn't bright enough to do it. So everything that they know about it is in process, because they're just starting to really study it, because they never expected it to be a problem.
And that's really interesting, because when we decided that, when we realized that it was really important to understand this in supporting our self-care and our well-being, right, as part of Good Fat Life, there isn't a lot out there.
No, because
right?
They're just discovering it, and they're continuing to discover it. And even as you watch all the research, you see the changes that they've developed, because it's all available now, that they didn't know in the 70s, that they knew in the 80s, that they know in the 90s. And so 10 years, they'll know more about it. But what they know now is that it really affects us. And this man, Dr. Sachin Panda, he thinks, or he attributes almost all diseases to it, which sounds like too much, but how do we know?
Right.
How do we know?
So one of the things that I find really fascinating about it is how each like we said, each second, there are cells regenerating, going through their recycle, right? But the Chinese have really mapped out what's happening with each body system, like from midnight to 1. And I forget, I'll say them wrong, but the kidneys are going through their
Right.
tissues, and then the gallbladder,
Right.
and the heart, and the
And
breathing.
they can't be doing it all at the same time, so there is a specific time for each part to be doing it. And that's where the conflict has come in and the problem, because we're starting to eat when we should be sleeping and sleep when we should be eating. And it's throwing off all the systems.
Because the systems need that full attention.
Yeah, and they each, like the liver, when it's doing its job, it's putting off cells for the organs around it also. So it's all so interconnected. And when you throw one system off, you're throwing all the systems off.
Right. So like if you're eating and your body needs to be digesting when it should be, when your liver's trying to do what it needs to do, you're dissipating. Yeah, that part's fascinating. And you can see, I guess, when you think about it, you can see why it would cause dis-ease, or why it does matter.
But we don't think about it.
That's why we don't know, right?
That's why thinking about it is the answer, really, because it's all free. Sleep is free. Going outside is free. Eating isn't exactly free, but close enough. And so if we get up in the morning and we go outside, that hits our brain and reminds us it's time to get up. We should spend at least some time outside every day. There's 3 ways to really set your clock, but that's one of them. And food is another one, and sleep. So the best thing that we can do for our whole system is to regulate it, make it standard, do it the same time every day. Start eating at the same every day so that our brain and our outside can be in connect. Because when we do it all at different times, it's throwing out the systems and we're not abiding by them. If we abide by our internal clock and use the sun and use exercise and use food to enhance our good, then we eliminate all the dysfunction of it. Then we're not eating at the wrong time. And we're eating at the right time, so our body can really focus on what it's doing. And it doesn't have to be trying to do 3 things at once.
So there's I was reading recently that it's like 80% of the illness, or I'll just say in America, because I think it was around America, is caused by lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's not like
that's why we're doing this.
Exactly. That's the point of Good Fat Life.
That's the whole point.
But it's interesting because I just left meeting with my nutritionist because I had this panel done on like 300 hormones in my body, right? One of her recommendations to me was that to go outside at least 10 to 15 minutes get the morning light before 10 a.m. because you want it to be horizontal. You don't want the light to be above you because it affects cortisol.
Right.
And
starts it.
And right, it's so, and while my levels are good, it could be it's not dropping fast enough at night. And so she's like, this will help do that. And it's a natural thing to do. Yeah. It's not a supplement. It's not anything. It's just, so it's just interesting how I heard that twice in the last, hour.
And you're going to, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But who knew? Who knew that just going outside, we're inside 90% of the time in America, they say. And who knew that just going outside is enough to set your clocks for the whole day.
Well, and that was her point. She goes, it's not just the morning that it affects; it's how you wind down for the evening, and it impacts your quality of sleep.
Exactly.
And it's like, wow,
Wow, exactly. I thought the same thing, but taking a walk in the morning, getting outside and getting sunlight in the morning for 10 minutes, 30 is probably better, but 10 minutes, and even if the sun's not shining. Did she tell you that?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Be outside with the sun, the natural rays, and it will affect your sleep.
Huh. So what else have you found?
Eating's another thing that's really important, to try to eat at the same time, because your body is designed to work a certain way. And we've just gotten away from it with the Industrial Revolution, really. After the light bulb became commercialized and everybody started having lights, nobody thought about the detrimental effect at all. Everybody just thought, wow,
But
we
isn't
can
it?
stay up all night.
Well, it's like sugar. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, we can
Oh,
have
yeah.
piles of
Yeah.
sugar and I'll get diabetes. And so,
And the reason they started studying it was shift workers, mainly in jet lag, is the two really prime examples of when our internal master clock can be thrown off from the outside rhythms, because we didn't used to fly around before either. But our clock is set to be in New York still, and if we just go to California, it throws it off. It's because it's still on New York time.
well, when we moved from the West Coast to the Eastern time zone, it took me, 6 to 9 months to adjust to that. It was tough because it was just, it took a long time to adjust, which surprised me that it took so long, but it did.
And a lot of the researchers, chronobiologists, they're called.
Chronobiologists.
Okay. They've determined that, or most of them say that there are larks that like to get up in the morning, and there are night owls and that their systems are just shorter or different. So even if you are, I feel like I'm a night owl. This man doesn't really agree with that because he said they took people out into Never Never Land in the dark, and the people who thought they were night owls went back to a regular cycle in the real natural light. But I tend to be a night owl. I worked afternoons my whole career. And so what I do is I don't try to get up first thing in the morning, but I try to get up at the same time every morning. And I try to go outside every morning, and I stay up later, but I get the same sleep time.
Got it.
So my rhythm seems to be drastically improving just by doing that.
That's interesting. And my mind's spinning because there's, I have this Aura ring, and it measures your sleep pattern, and it's very apparent when if I have to get up, like this morning I had to get up at 5:30 because I had a real early meeting with a client in France, and but you can see how I'm waking up for like 2 hours before that alarm goes off, because my brain's like, you got to wake up, right? Where if I didn't have that alarm, I would naturally wake up at 7. Mm-hmm. It just is, that's when I wake up and feel good. Yeah. But it's so interesting, again, how that artificial thing, the artificial alarm, just throws my whole night's sleep off, because everything's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And then there's the stress.
And they're discovering just how drastically important sleep is, because the rhythm's going all through the night, and it's cleansing, and it's doing all its very important things for us to regroup in the morning and start again. And every 24 hours.
It starts all over. And we've as a society have treated sleep as like this commodity kind of a thing. It's like, I don't want to sleep. It's a waste of,
And all the sleep apnea, all the sleeping pills. We take like millions of sleeping pills in this country every night. And maybe by going outside in the morning, something as simple as that.
And taking a moon bath.
Yeah. Right? I never called it that, but I've done it for my whole life. But yeah.
Oh, it's fascinating.
It truly is.
So we are going to be spending, we thought this was going to be like something we were going to focusing on 2023, right? Uh-huh. And we've found that, no, this is going to become an ongoing part of Good Fat Life, to really dive deep into what's happening each hour.
Exactly, and how we can improve our health so naturally.
Exactly.
And easily, when we get in tune, when our inside is in tune with the outside.
Right.
Because it doesn't determine it. Even when they took plants and we were in a room that was dark, they still did their thing.
The plants?
The plants still did their thing.
Were they in total darkness?
Total darkness.
Oh, okay.
So they still had their circadian rhythm. What the sun does is it enhances it. what everything else does, it enhances it, or it goes against it.
Okay, depending on how you're using it.
Depending on how you're using it. That's how 100 years ago it wasn't an issue because
You didn't have the artificial light.
it's all just in the last 80 years or so that they started industrializing and everything started going. I worked at General Motors 24/7, 24/7. I mean, I didn't work there.
Yeah.
But they ran 24/7.
Right.
And when I worked the midnight shift, I found that it was easier to work 7 days a week than screw up my sleep on the weekend.
I bet.
Because it just threw you off that much.
And then you have to adjust again.
Yeah.
Huh.
Which I didn't know really what it was, but I knew I would rather just keep working, stay up all night and sleep in the day like I'd been doing, because it would throw it off drastically. And that's why they started studying it, really because of the shift workers and the firefighters, and they're trying to find ways so that the firefighters can eat at certain times and sleep at certain times so that they're not as
Exhausted
all the time.
Wow.
By being more in tune with their master clock.
Huh. Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who are interested in learning more about this, we'll be having articles and research and blogs about this on a regular basis because it is fascinating and the research is just kind of starting to come out.
It is. It really is.
Well, it'll be interesting to see
Short
too
history.
what happens with all of the tablets. People reading their tablets at night and playing the games, video games in the night.
Well, they're starting to account for that, and they're changing the light. They're changing the.
It's a blue light,
a
Blu-ray light or
they're
something.
They're trying to get different ways to do that, but it's best not to do it.
Yeah,
it's really best to put it down, and make sleep, give it the honor it deserves, and appreciate it, and turn the lights off at night. Turn your lights off. You don't think to do it because they're just on, but just turn them all off when the sun goes down. Allow your body to slow down with it. That's what it naturally wants to do, and the more we're in tune with it and the more we let the outside help the inside, the more balanced
that we are.
We are.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take a quick, hold that thought. I'm going to take a quick break and do a shout out to Hands on Health Chiropractic and Dr. Adam Rushford. And we were talking this past week about he goes out every morning and gets the light. So 3 times in less than a week. And he said he doesn't even need coffee. It's more energizing than just going out in the light and moving a little. You don't even need coffee. And they have an incredible practice. I just love walking in there. The place is so positive and feels good. And they're just so dedicated to us being our best selves. So that's Hands on Health Chiropractic, and we'll have their contact information in our show notes. So as we're just coming to a close, what would you recommend? Where would you recommend people start with learning more?
Learning More, that's a good book. But as far as what you can do, you can just try to get yourself more on a schedule. Keep yourself more on a schedule, and honor that body, honor the intricate system that's operating inside us every day. And the more you're aware of it, the more you naturally want to feed it the sunlight and feed it the daylight. Now, when I wake up in the morning, I just open the curtains wide open. Just wide open because I know my brain is picking up that light. And it's starting to produce the cortisol to get me moving.
To get you moving.
And just when you dim the lights at night, you're in tune with your body's natural rhythm that it wants to slow down. It's ready to process and slow down and cleanse all night long while you're sleeping. So the more you can just be aware of it, the more you want to do it. And then the more you start doing it, the more effects you feel from it.
And it's all free.
And it's all free.
It's all free.
Yeah.
So
get outside every day. Dim your lights at night. Respect that 24-hour cycle that we all living organisms have.
So, We might want to cut that.
No. Are you sure?
Maybe not. So,
That's
okay.
another subject.
Yeah, that's a different topic. So on that
Just
happy
as
note,
worthwhile.
so I made that mistake in 7th grade biology.
Oh, no.
And I had no idea what the word meant, and I don't even know why anyway, it was just, I was mortified when I found out. Anyway, we digress. So with all this money that you're saving without having to spend money on sleeping pills and all of this stuff, you can go get a subscription, right, for Good Fat Life. and support
it is
this
amazing,
work.
though.
Support this work and all this research, and
Support it while it's supporting you.
yeah, exactly. Support it while it supports you. Yeah, because we're all kind of like symbiotic, right?
Exactly.
All right. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's been a joy.
It's always a joy, yes. And we just encourage you to go out and live your good fat life and get your sun time in and your moon baths too. Okay. Be well.